Hello again, everyone, and welcome back. Thanks for watching. I want to get into the Housing Accelerator Fund this week and give an update on it and my opinions. We've seen a lot of announcements this year, but first, I do want to get over the January statistics from the CREA update or from the CREA media release. So here it is. I'm not going to spend much time on this. Canadian home sales showing signs of recovery. It's kind of the same thing we always hear, especially at this time of year. Spring market's coming, sales pick up in January, that kind of thing. But looking at the charts here, you can see in the red there, those are the monthly home sales and the 10-year moving average in the black. Still well below it. Of course, they're not at their rock bottom lows that they have been in the last year or two, but yeah, still relatively low. Next from this release, we have the HPI, and this is the year-over-year change on the home price index. Not a big index guy myself, but I have been watching this because you can see year-over-year, it is pretty much flat at this point. And a quick look at the market balance here. The sales to new listings ratio is in the red line here, and it's just below, I think it's around 58 point something percent. So it's still in that balanced market, but it is, slowly approaching a seller's market. And the months of inventory is at 3.7 months right now, down a little bit in the last couple of months, but not anywhere near its lows, especially not from 2021 or 2022. So I'm sure we will see some inventory pick up in the spring like it always does. So we'll keep an eye on that. And of course, inventory has always been an issue in the last few years. And looking at the numbers nationally for the average sale price nationally, we have 0.3% month over month from December to January, or $2,000, the average price increased. 7.7% year over year from last January, or $47,000, the average home price increased. And we're still down 19.2% from the peak, or $157,000. Okay, so now moving on to the Housing Accelerator Fund and where we're at with that. Been a bunch of announcements this year. It's not really turning out the way I expected it to. Well, I didn't really have great hopes for this program, but regardless, I don't know if it's a little bit of a sham or a scam or smoke and mirrors, I guess I should say, because it is what it is. But let me explain and let me show you why I feel this way. So they have closed their application window now. So all applications have been received and no more can be submitted. You can see here on the CMHC site. And just to refresh what it is, Housing Accelerator Fund, removing barriers to encourage local initiatives to build more homes faster. The program is helping increase housing supply and supporting the development of communities that are more affordable, diverse, and climate resilient. So it looks great. So the ideal is we're going to create more housing supply, whether it's the cities or the government, but this money is for producing or constructing more homes and faster, right? This is clearly what it says. One of the things I want to point out was just a random media release here. This was from March 17th, actually last year, from Guelph. But again, this has been the consistent messaging with the Housing Accelerator Fund, a $4 billion initiative that will provide funding for local governments to fast track the creation of 100,000 new homes across Canada. That has been the messaging consistently. $4 billion, 3 years is the time frame to build 100,000 homes, or to fast track. The government's, of course, not building the homes, but they're incentivizing municipalities to change rules to get them built. So it's a pretty straightforward initiative, even though there are some requirements that you need more density and whatnot. But regardless, it's incentivize cities, build homes, will give you money, right? Or make a commitment, will give you money, 3-year time frame, $4 billion, 100,000 homes. So this was one of the Liberal Party's posts this week, February 17th. And of course, they are claiming the Housing Accelerator Fund is fast tracking 550,000 new homes across Canada. And at the top there, they said more homes built faster in over 35 communities across the country. Now, I'm going to get back to that post in a minute because it was a really bad ratio on that post, and I want to read some comments, but that's after I go through an update here. So it was very clear, like they're claiming now 550,000 homes, and this would be after a 10-year span. But this is not what the money's for. The money's to fast track in 3 years, 100,000 homes. So again, we have mixed messaging. Is it 550,000 homes? Is it 100,000 homes? So it is 100,000 homes. I've done my homework on this, but they're talking about once bylaws change and exclusionary zoning changes, this will help spur on more units in home building over these years. I don't know how they come to this number because we're already creating so many homes, but they're saying it's going to create even more than we were going to create. I do want to share a quick video before I proceed. This is from one of the finance committees last week on February 13th, and the housing minister just being questioned about the Housing Accelerator Fund.
So I want to start out with the Housing Accelerator Fund. That it started over 3 years ago. It's $4 billion invested. How many houses have been built?
The Housing Accelerator Fund doesn't go toward the cost of building houses. It goes towards incentivizing changes at municipal levels that will speed up permitting processes and end exclusionary zoning and increase density around post-secondary institutions, infrastructure, transit, etc. The nuance in your question is important. It doesn't actually lead to the construction of specific homes.
I understand. So how many houses has the Housing Accelerator built? $4 billion, and 3 years later.
The Housing Accelerator Fund does a different thing than your question suggests it does.
So it was very clear in this video, the Housing Accelerator Fund does not fund construction of homes. It funds, changes in municipalities to get more homes built. Now, this was first introduced in 2021. Then it was put into the budget in 2022. Then last year, well, nothing was done with it until last year. We got a new housing minister, and all of a sudden the big push came, and he's just pushing out these announcements and putting this money out there to make it look like something's being done. Is there something being done? I don't know, but I do have the data on that now, so let's check that out. Okay, so first of all, I do have two charts here. This was all the 2023 announcements. So you can see all the places they was announced and the amount per unit. It varied. It was always in the 30,000s, 33 or 30,000 up to 39,000 in Richmond Hill there. So per unit, again, they're not funding, they're not building these, but this is how much they were given because the city is making a promise. The government is allowing cash allocated based on that number of units or those number of units. And of course, you have to put a number per unit number on it because they're promising 100,000 homes. Now we're going to move on to the 2024 announcements. So there's been a slew of announcements in the last month and a half. Here they all are here listed. Actually, in the video, Sean Fraser said there was 36 announcements. That was February 13th. And then the Liberal government put out a thing on the 17th saying they had 35 cities. Of course, there is one province in there, but let's take a look at that. You have them all, the number of units, the cash allocated towards that city, and the amount per unit. Now, Nunavut, of course, they're very rural, very remote. They would need a lot more money per unit with trying to get things done because everything's like twice as expensive up there because of the transport fees to get things there and whatnot. It kind of got a little more sparse or a little more erratic, I guess I should say, the numbers per unit. Like you're up at 43, almost 44,000 in Summerside. And one of the places was 29,000. So it seems to me like this program is just kind of just throwing money out the window at this point, smoke and mirrors. Anyway, you get down to Quebec. Now, Quebec has their own deal with Canada on a lot of things, but they did it as a province. And it's very clear. I do have the announcement I'm going to show you now in a minute. 2,574 homes. They get 900 billion. 23% of the money goes to Quebec. They do have 22% of the population. Someone on X clearly pointed that out to me, which they're right. And they get $349,650 per unit. Look at all the rest. They get 35. So they get 10 times more per unit in Quebec. Again, they made a deal with the province, but still, I'll show you the release: 2,500 homes and $900 billion. Now, there's a total of all the places at the bottom: $3.2 billion and 65,740 homes promised from these cities and the one province within that 3-year time frame, which raised another red flag to me. So they've spent or promised 80% of this fund. So just over 3.2 billion of 4 billion is 80%. And you have 65,700 and whatever homes announced. So that's 65% of 100,000 homes. So we have 80% of the budget spent, but only 65% of the promised 100,000 homes accounted for. So it's already looking like a fiscal failure here. But they do have more announcements, but I don't see those numbers of homes per unit decreasing to 10,000 or whatever to make up the difference. Anyway, just keep an eye on that. We're probably not going to get the 100,000 homes that we expected or promised from these municipalities. Okay, before I go any further, I just want to kind of look at the messaging. This is the update page that CMHC has changed it to now, and you can get all the updates of the releases, right? And if as you go through them, the wording is very specific and very clear. You know, news release, helping build more homes faster in Calgary, helping build more homes faster in Squamish. So it's kind of like they're helping build more homes, but they're not responsible for construction. So very, again, mixed messaging here, helping build more homes faster in Surrey and Burnaby. It goes on. Sometimes they do change it up, removing barriers to build more homes faster in Vancouver. And again, you go down the list, same thing, helping build more homes faster. Once in a while, removing barriers to build more homes faster in Waterloo. I think that's when the Prime Minister does the announcement, they change that. But anyway, very consistent on the messaging, and removing barriers or helping build more homes until you get to the most recent announcement. Sorry, this was announced on November 9th, but it was the most recent one now, and I'll show you that in a second. But it changes, though the wording changes because it is Quebec and they're doing a provincial one. News release, Canada and Quebec announce a major agreement to support accelerated housing construction. So, of course, they have their own separate deal there, which is fine. Again, this is nothing against the people of Quebec. I love Quebec and I love Montreal and all the places up there. I think it's great, but this is about the government and not about the people. So, yeah, don't get angry if you think I'm bad mouthing Quebec here. I'm not bad mouthing Quebec at all. I'm all for the people, but this is about the transparency of the program and where this money is being spent. Now I'm going to look at one of these specific news announcements here, and these are the two most recent ones: helping build more homes faster on Vancouver Island. And this is from February 16th. With federal funding and federal leadership, we are changing how cities let housing get built in their municipalities with a greater focus on higher density housing, student housing, homes near transit, and affordable housing. We are going to get more homes built for Canadians at prices they can afford. Down below, the agreements under the Housing Accelerator Fund will provide a total of almost $33.5 million to eliminate barriers to building the housing we need faster. So very clear, eliminating barriers, get the homes built faster. This is the same for all these cities that they've announced, except for Quebec. And let me read Quebec's for you. Now, I have had some debates online today with people on X, or one person specifically saying, well, this is just more than building the homes there. This is for other things, land, zoning amendments, and whatever else. But it's very clear here. Federal government supports construction of over 2,400 affordable homes throughout Quebec. The government of Canada and Quebec are proud to announce that 2,574 new housing units will be built quickly as part of 47 projects across Quebec, thanks to $900 million in federal funding provided to Quebec through the Canada-Quebec Agreement under the Housing Accelerator Fund, plus new investments totaling $900 million announced by Quebec during its fall 2023 economic update. So what's happened there is Quebec says, we're going to match the 900. You give us 900, we'll put in another 900 million, and we're going to build a bunch of homes. So, but the commitment from Quebec is just over 2,500 homes. It's not 4,000 homes as in a certain area. So they've promised less homes. The rest is going to infrastructure. I don't know where it's going, but it's the Housing Accelerator Fund. Their cost per unit is 350,000, and the rest of Canada is 35,000 on average. Now, it does seem a little unfair. And of course, I know Quebec has separate agreements and it goes way back before my time. But it does seem a little odd that they announce way less units but get 10 times more money per unit. Now, I have posted this chart before. Quebec does make up a large percentage of the country. It's almost 9 million people or something. 22% of the population's in Quebec. But now looking at political influence, this chart here is the total time served as prime minister by province, right from the beginning of parliament. And this is based on the home riding while that person is the prime minister. So as right now, Trudeau's the prime minister, his home riding is in Quebec. I forget the riding, but it's in Quebec. And I got this from Wikipedia, but here it is. 43.7% of the time, we've had a prime minister with a Quebec riding, and Ontario's been 21.5%, and you can see the other provinces there. So, of course, is there favoritism towards Quebec? I don't know, but the wording in the Housing Accelerator Fund when it comes to that province is different than the rest. And I understand that it might be different or they might have a separate agreement, but I don't think it's fair. And let me know in the comments what you think, that we're supposed to be building 100,000 homes. We are at 65,000. We only have 20% of the budget left. And Quebec seems to have got a way better deal than any other city or province in the country. Okay, now back to this post here from the Liberal Party this week. Again, claiming 550,000 homes when it's not. It's clearly 100,000 was their goal in 3 years. But of course, now they've gone with a bigger number. And if you look at the bottom there, they got ratioed. I don't talk about ratios much, but 551 likes to 1,500 comments. And let me tell you, there was no nice comments in here. I didn't see one nice comment. They were all just bad. Let me just go through a few of them to kind of give you the feeling of what it was like. From Sunocause, fast tracking, wake me up when they are built. From Michael Caulfield, they won't have roads leading to them, but they will look great. Yeah, it's probably not far off since our environment minister doesn't want to build any more roads. I'm sure you've seen that in the news this week also. From Fleming Rasmussen, new home construction in Canada fell by 10% in January compared to December, as fewer multi-unit urban homes, such as townhomes, were built, according to the country's National Housing Agency, CMHC. And it is true, housing starts have been dropping. They dropped last year, they're dropping again now. So it doesn't look like the Housing Accelerator Fund makes a difference when it comes to building homes, because if builders can't make profit because of inflated prices and land costs, it doesn't matter how much zoning changes. You can change the zoning to put skyscrapers everywhere, but if it doesn't make sense to build them, they won't get built. From Devil's Advocate, yeah, ice fishing tents. You haven't built a single home, you've announced. Funding that still won't get anything built. The propaganda is thick. And lastly, from Fix, one of the 35 Lib home building communities. And that's sad but true. Even in my background this week, I thought it was the appropriate theme. Anyway, again, let me know what you think in the comments. And until next week, I'll see you then.